With so much content out there, how do you filter through all the noise and cut straight to the value? What has become very apparent is that the best way to learn is to surround yourself with those you aspire to be. But you can't just watch what they do. At some point, you have to turn it into an action. Knowledge isn't power. Applied knowledge is power. On this podcast, you will go on a journey as we speak to people who are making a difference in their industries, and people who, if we listen to closely and take action, can turn you into who you want to be. My name is Mark Sclair, and this is Your Turning Point.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to suspend your disbelief. Prepare to be amazed by one of the world's most incredible mind-reading double acts. Britain's Got Talent finalists, the extraordinary D&A.
Before we get started, I'd like to point out that we haven't set anything up with anyone in advance.
Andrew and I are so in tune with each other, we both ended up buying the same camouflage t-shirts. This is the 3 of clubs. 3.
That is amazing.
And just try and send me that person's name. That's exactly...
Simon, I believe you're thinking 717. You're thinking of the colour turquoise. You're thinking of Sir Roger Moore.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Exactly. Many of you may be wondering how we read minds. What you should be wondering is how we started off this performance wearing camouflage t-shirts and ended up wearing black. We are DNA. Thank you.
Darren and Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. I'm at fault sometimes for announcing people with a sort of title, and I don't want to do that here. So can you tell us can you tell the audience who you are and what this is all about today?
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. But before I actually say anything, I want to say that I looked at the monitors before we started rolling, and I don't know what kind of AI technology you've used to make us look so fat, but I'm not very happy about it.
No, I'll speak to that.
It hasn't worked on you, only for us. It's so weird.
It's different cameras.
That's it
be.
This is Andrew. I'm Darren. Together, we are known professionally as DNA.
DNA. Okay. Yeah. And what is that?
So
then?
we are a mind-reading double act.
So
we perform a version of telepathy, which is based on a very old Victorian style second sight act where usually the woman, it'd be a man and a woman, the woman would be on stage with the blindfold on, the man would walk amongst the audience, hold objects up, and the woman, even though she was blindfolded, she told everyone what it was.
Yeah.
So that's the basis of our act.
Yeah.
And we kind of took it, spun it on its head, and brought it right up into the 21st century.
So no blindfolds generally are worn, obviously, 2 guys doing an act.
Yeah.
And what's kind of unique with what we do is that our roles are interchangeable. So one of us could be with the audience for one routine, next routine, the other of us is in the audience, the other one's on stage. So we've just kind of given it a completely fresh look.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So what's interesting here is we've had a discussion about this, and we're looking at the parallels between magic and business. And I think I can understand it. We've gone through it. But what tends to happen is that it's seen as like a little bit of a gimmick for businesses. But I feel that it can actually really be of value because there's definitely some alignment with this. So if you want to go into a little bit of detail about that, how you feel that connects.
Yeah, so there's a lot of soft skills we've developed organically, such as being memorable, presentation skills, selling ourselves, standing out from the competition, confidence, all of these kind of stuff. Andrew and I both work behind the scenes for another magician who works, who has TV shows and stuff. So we're often part of teams and stuff like that. So there's lots of organic skills we've developed as magicians that are easily transferable to businesses.
Yeah.
We've developed little tips and techniques that we can give people to apply to their own business, whether it's marketing or sales or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just kind of use our experience as performers to give an example of what the right thing to do is.
Yeah.
And then people can take it and apply it to what they do.
I think what's interesting is that, when people see us on stage, what they don't see is all the prep that goes into maybe a half an hour performance.
Yeah.
And that comes down to writing a script, eliminating certain lines from it, taking sort of like a narrative and cutting it down to its basic to make it as digestible for an audience to appreciate, thinking about the stagecraft. How do we move on stage to make it more attractive to the audience? What phrases are we using to make our performance compelling? So all of those things are transferable in every business.
Yeah.
Also, all the mistakes that we've made to get to that point.
Sure.
So all
Yeah.
the mistakes, the things that we integrate into the decisions we make when we design a set or design a show.
No, I think that's great. And, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but I saw a situation where there was a mistake made,
Yeah.
and you just went on with it. And I think that's really good for people to understand. Something can happen. And I even before I was talking about everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. That
Sure.
Mike Tyson, but it's how you respond in that moment.
I think the nature of what we do is we're always kind of walking on that knife edge. And people, there's an argument when you sort of like perform magic, if it's all perfect, people lose believability in it because
Yeah.
everything's always perfect. And
Yeah.
the truth of the matter is, every time we go out and perform, it can go wrong.
Yeah.
We just try to eliminate as much as we can those losses
Yeah.
to a degree. But the worst case scenario is if you're thinking of somebody and we name the wrong person, we kind of have egg on our face, but you kind of just have to pick yourself up and then reanalyze and go, where did it go wrong?
Yeah.
And was it really a big deal?
Yeah.
Because I think people kind of find it more believable when something doesn't go 100% all of the time. So not that we build losses in, because we'd love to get it right 100% of the time, but sometimes that's just life. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And actually, like you alluded to, that's a real learning experience for everyone. What happened? How do we fix it? And dust yourself off and get up and carry on.
Yeah.
I mean, you know this probably better than most people as a sales trainer. I presume you tailor whatever you're doing dependent on what the client wants and what the client needs.
Yeah.
So for us, years and years ago, when we first developed what we do, we showed a very well-known magician from America.
Okay.
And he said, "Oh, I absolutely love it." He said, "Is it not a bit heavy? Is it not a bit, intense?" So we took that advice, and what we did was we looked at our whole show and tried to put as many different elements of different interesting things, whether it's visual or whether it's audible or whether it's cerebral, whatever it is, all these kind of different elements. That way, when somebody watches the show, whether it's a 10-minute set or a 30-minute set, they're getting a diverse range of material. They're not, what Andrew's talking about is jeopardy. If the audience think you're just someone's gonna think of something, you're gonna reveal it. If it's think, reveal, it's dull and boring. Once you've seen it once, you've seen it all, kind of thing. So we've kind of built things in to kind of keep that jeopardy, keep people thinking of what's happening next.
Even with the music, like the suspense building up with it as well on some of the videos.
Right.
It's about when we build a show, the show has to have texture. It's like a movie doesn't start off with just the great big compelling ending because you're building up the subject matter, and it's almost like we do the same. And it's the same kind of thing that we sort of like apply when we go into businesses and teach them something. Yeah. It's like you have to have sort of like substance and texture, and it's about ebb and flow to keep people interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, we give an example when we could do it for you a bit later actually, rather than explain it. But effectively, we can do the same trick twice, but just with a different presentation.
Yeah.
And sometimes one presentation would work great for a certain scenario where you talk about influence and body language and vocal techniques, and every decision they're going to make is going to affect the outcome. And sometimes we just say, think of this and reveal it. The trick is the same, but the experience that our audience or our guests feel in that moment is based on what we judge to be the correct application at the time.
Yeah.
So in business, you know, do you want to pounce on somebody and pressure them, or do you want to just give them space? I mean, you judge that as a salesman, right?
Yeah, and you have to read the person in front, don't you? And I think that's what you guys are really good at as well, like understanding that person in front.
And the truth is, sometimes we'll be booked for an event and we'll go to the space and we'll have in mind exactly what we're going to do. And once we get out there and the lights are on and we, you know, see a scenario which maybe we weren't anticipating, you have to think on the spot and make it work. Because you can't say, hey guys, sorry, could you just go back into reception? We need to adjust. You have to think on, you know, you have to be adaptable. And all of these things are about becoming adaptable and making the best of the situation as it presents itself.
Yeah.
You mentioned something very interesting. I'd love to hear your sort of your thoughts / experience on this.
Go for it.
But you mentioned about us making a mistake, and I
Yeah.
presume you're talking about the final of Britain's Got Talent.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I've never seen it back. I've never been able to watch it back. So the history of that was on the day of the final, we were asked to change our act. We were doing something with the Rubik's Cube.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then they came to our dressing room and said, doesn't really work, can you change it? We wrote a whole new act. We probably had about 45 minutes to rehearse it. It was under-rehearsed, under-practiced. We hadn't thought about it enough. Got up, performed what we thought was a good act before we went on, made a mistake, and by the end it was a mess.
Yeah.
I've never been able to watch it back. I
It's a bit of a house of cards situation.
Yeah.
You lose the top one and it just...
And this is what I was going to ask you. If you make a mistake very early on, or let's say you upset someone you're trying to sell to, effectively you're swimming against the tide from then on.
Yeah.
How do you cope in those situations?
Humility. I accept it. And it was different for you because you're live on this show and you've got thousands of people there. Millions of people there, yeah. And it's, you can't just put your hand, well, actually you did put your hand up and go, oh, I read a different number there actually.
Yeah.
So that was, but as I said, you just got straight on with it and you kept in it. And sometimes that's the best, I feel it's the best thing to do is just continue and then try and sort it out afterwards.
What's kind of interesting with that situation, and I think he was very gracious with his comment, you know, Simon Cowell did turn around and say, you know what, guys, you made a mistake, that does happen, but what it's shown everyone, it's made you more human.
Yeah.
Now, it was hard, it was a bitter pill to swallow at the time. But you know what, at the end of the day, you know, with the benefit of many years since then, you can reflect on it and go, yeah, it's just one of those things. Did it cost us winning Britain's Got Talent? We'll never know that.
No.
Has it hindered our career since Britain's Got Talent? I'd say that's a definite no. You know, it hasn't hindered us.
I mean, moving away from Britain's Got Talent, the reason I actually wanted to dig on this with you was we had a scenario fairly recently.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that this doesn't ever reach the person I'm talking about.
Okay.
But we were having quite a casual conversation with somebody that might book us for events. And as we were talking, I mentioned, I mean, this might not even make it to the podcast because it's slightly uncouth. But basically, I mentioned...
Don't say it then.
No, basically, I mentioned about cash.
Okay.
And she had quite a bad reaction to it. But what happened was, I mentioned it in a way that I didn't mean it how it came out. And after that, I kind of had to backtrack and like paddle my way out of it. And I think in the end, she was fine. But like, she sort of... her reaction at the time was, I think that might devalue your brand and I don't think it's the right look and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, I didn't kind of mean it like that. I kind of meant it as sometimes we get asked and if it's the right scenario, I'm not saying I'll book you an event next September for cash, no. But if you've got a gig and it's tomorrow night and it works for us and that's what you want to do, then we can accommodate.
I think just for the point there, everything for me is you didn't mean it in a bad way, but it's how she took it. And everything is about the other person's perspective. So and I've had this in so many meetings, you think you've knocked it out the park and the other person just didn't get it.
Because the point is everything with any kind of communication is subject to interpretation.
Yeah.
You know, which is why, you know, one of the ways I hate to communicate the most is via text message.
Yeah.
Because text message can be interpreted in so many different ways because there's no inflection when somebody reads it. And if they're looking at it, they could take it negatively or positively or be completely indifferent to the text.
Yeah.
It's much better to be with somebody and try to explain, exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
I kind of loathe text messages sometimes because it really can be taken the wrong way.
Just send a 5-minute voice note.
Yeah, that's I'd be better off. But Darren sends voice notes all the time. So I never do. Yeah.
No, I think just for your point there, it's something's going to happen, and somebody's always going to get offended, even if you don't mean to do it like that. But what I try to do is I want to try and get it cleared up before we leave the room.
Which sometimes you can't.
Which you can't.
Sometimes you can't. Because I've been in situations before where somebody's taken what I've said in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And they've left the room.
Yeah.
So I'll give you another example. I was in a creative meeting on a TV show the other week.
Okay.
And one of the most talented performers, a guy called Jonathan Goodwin. He is a stuntman and a escapologist. He's been on Britain's Got Talent, America's Got Talent. He's toured with The Illusionists. He's had his own TV show. Like, he's a super talented guy, phenomenal. And a couple of years ago, he had a really bad accident, and he was on America's Got Talent Extreme, and he got crushed by 2 cars hanging from a burning rope and fell to the ground.
Wow.
And now he has severed his spinal cord, and he's paralysed, and he's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Amazing man. Anyway, we were in a creative meeting and we were discussing about people falling down. And he said the most natural way to teach people how to fall safely is for them to be stood up, fall to their knees and fall forwards. Because falling backwards is a totally different skill. And I turned around and said, what do you know about falling?
Oh.
But I meant it that he's a stuntman, a trained stuntman, right? Yeah. That's how I meant it. And everyone laughed. It was like, oh my God. And afterwards I was out for dinner with the team, and they said to me, it got interpreted as if I was referencing his accident, which I definitely wasn't.
No.
I was like mortified. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I need to phone him to explain. And one of the guys was like, leave it. Like, I'll just speak to him. Like, he took it in a good way anyway. But that's another example of something happening.
Yeah.
All right, it wasn't a business thing, but I mean, it technically was. But I said something that was totally innocent. It was just like a joke. It was a sarcastic joke. And it got taken in the wrong way, but I didn't have time to clear it up.
And there is the rule. Sometimes think before you speak. Because it can be interpreted in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And sometimes, there's a lot of people, my mum always had an expression, what's on their lung is on their tongue.
Okay.
They haven't even thought about it and they've already said it.
Yeah.
And I think there is a danger there.
You're not always going to connect with everybody. And I always say this, is there's a phrase SW3N. Some will, some won't, so what next? As long as in anything we do, we've got a big enough community of people to work with, be around, then some people get it and you connect with them. But as long as you're staying authentic to you, if people know that you maybe not think before you speak, they know what to deal with, and some people will connect with that, some people won't.
Absolutely. You can't appeal to everyone.
Exactly.
Often if we go to an event and we have the opportunity to mingle amongst the guests as opposed to be on stage, be some people you go up to, and always give people the opportunity to bow out. And I say, hey, I'm here. I'm performing some magic. Would you like to see it?
Yeah.
I'd say 98, 99% of people go, oh, that's amazing. Yes, please.
Yeah.
There'll be that small percentage that say, I hate magic. Thanks very much. And I just, the first time you hear it, back in the day, like 20, 30 years ago, when you start out, you think, oh, that's really like soul crushing, soul destroying. And you'd like do this walk of shame away and think, oh my God, like I feel really bad. But if you don't want to see it, no problem, because there's another 100 people that want to see it.
Do you know what's funny?
That's just the way it is.
I was working in a club in London, and Will.i.am was there, and I went up to him and said, "Oh, do you want to see some magic?" And he was so rude and dismissive. I literally can't bear watching him in anything since then because of the way he made me feel in that moment.
Yeah.
But
and it's not that, like Andrew said, I don't care. I've seen what I do. I don't need to show it to someone because I can do it. I've seen it thousands of times. If somebody wants to experience it and enjoy it in that moment, great.
Yeah.
But if somebody doesn't want to, then I'm okay with
maybe he was just being rude. But I also think as well, when somebody does something like that, I think to myself, are they okay? Like, has something gone on?
You're absolutely
we can't
right.
take it personally.
You're absolutely right. And, you know, we've had this discussion before. You know, if somebody is, hey, thanks very much, it's not for me, I don't know what's happened in their life that day. They may have had some really bad news. They might be going through some personal issues. So you just have to go, no problem, move on. And then, you know, with experience, like per you're saying, so what, or whatever, I can't remember exactly what it was.
Some will, some won't, so what?
Exactly. Get on with it.
Yeah.
And that's the attitude you've got to have.
Yeah.
No problem. I'll go to the next people.
I mean, look, even like our business partnership, you know, we started off as friends.
Well, that's what I want to talk about here, actually, because for you guys to be on stage, you've got to have a presence, and you've also, it has to be a connection with you two.
Chemistry, yeah.
Yeah, so chemistry. So talk us through that journey of building that chemistry, really, to what it is now. Because I'm sure at the beginning, there was some things to work on.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, like, you know, we started off as friends. We had this idea that we, you know, working as a magician by yourself is quite a lonely pursuit. You know, you go all over the place and you're usually in a car by yourself. You go to an event and you're driving home by yourself. So, you know, I kind of proposed to Darren, wouldn't it be cool if we had a double act? And maybe we should look at reinventing an act that, you know, existed 100 years ago. We don't know how to do it, but we'll work on it. And it really became a labour of love for us. Yeah. You know, at the time in our life when that, you know, we had the genesis of that idea, we were able to invest 10 hours a day talking about it, thinking about it. We'd never have that time now because we're just busy with families, and it was the right time, it was the right place. Yeah. How does that develop? It develops with his opinion and my opinion, which don't always align. And, you know, we've certainly had our differences in terms of, you know, he thinks it's the right way, I don't. But you come to a compromise. It's like with everything. Every relationship, at some point, you have to compromise and say, let's give it a go. We kind of always had a rule. The rule was, if one of us says no, the no overrides the yes from the other person. Like if somebody feels so strongly about it, the no overrides the yes, and we'll just park it there.
And we've stuck to that.
Fair enough.
We've stuck to that.
But they have to put a case together for the no, or it's just no?
Yeah, I mean, you can't just say no and not, you know, quantify it in any way.
Like, for example, if there was like a photo we had taken that one of us loved and one of us hated, the one that it will not get posted. No. That's it. It's just like, that's the rule.
Yeah. Well, there's a great thing on Samsung now, by the way, where you can take loads of photos and you can change the faces around on each one. It makes one photo. So have a look at
I mean, that was just an example.
No,
I mean, there's
enough.
loads of things we've done where we've had massive arguments and then a no's overruled a yes, and then 6 months later we've gone back to it and we're like, actually.
You know, what Darren and I have always been really good at is, we've had sort of like some blow-ups and some differences, you know, personally and professionally, but we've always managed to get over those really quickly. Like we can have a big argument and then just park it and just say, look, let's just move on and forget about it. And not, you know, a week later, oh, by the way, when you said that, it's like, it's done. Like, let's just get on with it. Like we're grown men.
So ever since I saw an interview with podcast with Jeff Bezos, there's something he said that really triggered something inside me, which I realised I've been doing for a long time organically, but ever since I've sort of listened to what he said, I've been really applying it to not only my personal life, but business decisions as well, which is truth-telling. Yeah. I feel like telling the truth is really important. Having people around you that can tell you the truth and that you can tell the truth to is really important. Yeah. And that's one thing that Andrew and I have been doing for a while, which is if we're not happy with something, either personally or professionally, we'll tell each other, we'll have it out. We might not speak for a day or two, but then we just draw a line under it and move on. Yep. And that's been, you know, a really healthy thing because I've got professional relationships with people where we've had our differences and I've kind of made decisions to do things that are best for myself and my family, where I cut the cord and I'm like, that doesn't work for me anymore. I'll leave it and I'll move on with my life personally. Professionally, I don't have a problem working with this person, but on a personal level, no thank you. Yeah. And I've had a bit of difficulty when my attitude towards it hasn't married up with that person or the people around that person, and then it ends up sort of becoming an argument when all I'm doing is what's best for me. So anyway,
I think, as you go through life, you learn from your experiences. And I always say, there's 2 points to make here. I always say to people, you have to be bad at something before you can be good. And that can be applied to life in general.
Yeah.
Like if you're sort of like wet behind the ears and you're sort of like really keen and you're 18 years old, you can have all the enthusiasm in the world, but you don't have the experience. And as you get older, you have more experience to draw upon. The other thing to sort of like mention about that is, I said to Darren many years ago, and this was something sort of like in my personal life, and I was just like, you can't really think about what everybody else thinks, because at the end of the day, everyone goes home, they put their head on a pillow and they go to sleep. And as long as you can put your head on your pillow and be okay with the thoughts that are in your head, that's the only person you have to satisfy.
Yeah.
You can't be responsible for everyone else's opinion.
Yeah.
So if you can find an inner peace, then you're kind of golden.
Yeah.
And that's it. I don't worry so much about what other people are thinking. It doesn't mean I go through sort of like destructively, just saying, I don't care, it's all about me. And
there's nothing you can do.
There's nothing I can do.
There's nothing you can do. You haven't intentionally gone out there to harm somebody or offend somebody.
Exactly.
And it just is what it is.
Yeah.
But I think with what you guys are doing, which is, being on stage and being present, there's a way which you can actually teach people with this and guide people, which is what we're talking about, which is this parallels between magic and business.
Sure.
Yeah. So what does that look like when you're running something like that type of training or that type of event? What is that like? If people just turn up and you start speaking, or is there you do some sort of research before you want to know about them, or you just go, okay, let's just get on with this today?
Typically, it starts off with a demonstration of what we can do.
Okay.
Because I think without a demonstration to show people what we do creatively, then we haven't established ourselves in any way. So I think it's almost like a proof.
Yeah.
Proof this is what we do, and hopefully
Proof of
they'll
credibility.
Yeah, and they'll be mesmerized or intrigued enough to go, wow, okay, I'm going to sit up and pay attention because this is something I didn't think was possible, and I'm intrigued. I think the worst way to present, and this is just a personal thing, sort of like being in the corporate world and sort of like working magic full time for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
I used to sort of like go to many sort of like training sessions, and it'd be death by PowerPoint. And that's the worst thing, because getting people's attention is one of the hardest things to do. And I think if you've got a distraction and you're talking and there's something for people to read, people are going to read and not listen, or people are going to listen and not read. Yeah. So I think that you have to structure it in a way that you have to appeal to as many people as possible. You have to have different ways to communicate. And for us, it's very much about saying, let's get hands-on. Let's take you out of your comfort zone and give you a task to do. And as you're doing that task, you're learning.
Yeah.
And you may not realize at the time you're learning, but at the end of the day, with all of these different tasks, we wrap it up and you suddenly sit there and go, I didn't realize I could do that.
Yeah.
I was really uncomfortable and talking in front of a crowd, but because I had something else to think about, I did it without consciously thinking about it. And now that's a skill that I can take forward.
I mean, the only thing to add to that is going to what you said in your question, which is we do research who we're delivering the course to. So, for example, I've spoken to you before, and I know you've trained. You gave me an example recently. You went to like some hairdressers, and trained them how to sell the products after their performance. Not performance, sorry. How to sell their products after their treatments, right? It's a very different approach for us if we were brought into a room with those kind of people, as opposed to, let's say, we went to like a creative marketing agency, or I don't know, a medical company.
Yeah.
So we research who we're training, need to understand what they're looking for, because we've done stuff for like Channel 4 in the past where there would be a leader of a group, like they got 3 or 4 people underneath them, and they're fine delegating tasks to those people. And when they need to get up and do a presentation for those people, for their small team, they're absolutely fine. When they have to get up and present to the wider team, then the nerves kick in. They get anxious. It's not people they interact with every day, and they have problems in that scenario. So that's a very different approach to what we would do with, like I said, a creative marketing agency where you've got loads of extroverts. So we need to learn what the brief is, understand the brief, and deliver the brief. Because we are creative by nature, we will tailor something specific to what a client needs. So there's no point teaching them how to sell something if what they need to do is, their job is, I create a deck to sell a product. How do I make myself stand out compared to the competition? Because my client might have 5 different creative agencies pitching to them in the same day. So how can I make sure that my deck and my presentation stands out?
Yeah.
I'm actually delivering it over a conference call. I'm sending them the deck ahead of time. How do I know they're not going to read through the whole deck? And by the time I'm on the call, they know what it is and they've already made their mind up. We give those people the competitive edge they need. Whereas something that we've done in the past, it might be, how do you get confidence when you stand up and you talk in front of people? Yeah.
And I think it all intertwines together. I think the main thing is here, like, you're getting people's attention and you're keeping it. And that's what you're doing in your day to day. And you're able to, with any field in the industry, you're able to take those skills and apply it to anything.
We did something recently where we had, we were on stage sort of like with a performance.
Yeah.
And we had people come up to us afterwards and say, that was so different and so refreshing. And what was really interesting, aside from sort of like the magic or the mind reading, was the dynamic that you two had on stage. And it was the stage presence that you had that kept us interested, as well as the tricks. But they were talking more about sort of like the dynamism or the dynamic way that we were on stage and just drew people in and held their attention. Now, I think we kind of have learnt to do that organically. Yeah. It's not something that we get up and think, oh, we must do this and you stand there and I'll be here.
Yeah, it just happens.
But it just happens. Yeah. And that comes down again to what I said before. You have to be bad before you can be good.
Yeah.
And the more you practice these things, the better you get, as long as you practice well. Because you can develop bad habits and they become, ingrained, and they're very easy to they're very hard to undo rather. So learning in the right way.
One thing that, sorry to interrupt. One thing that we talk about with regard to our skill set is being memorable. And we were at a conference a couple of days ago, somebody that you recommended us to.
Yeah.
We then got invited to perform in Dubai. And when we were there, we were talking about you, and people were like, oh, I know Mark, he's this, and like literally remembered things. How important is it to you to be memorable when, let's say, you're moderating a conference or you're training a team of people? Is the being memorable part important to you?
Massively, because, and I was about to say, it's not what you say, but how you say it. So you've got an act which you do, but the way that you are presenting yourself and being yourself is what people will remember. And if you're making somebody feel comfortable, like you're going to put someone in a very uncomfortable position where they now got to get up and speak in front of a load of people. But if you can create an environment where they feel safe and they trust you, then the whole event is going to go really, really well. Yeah. But what I actually did a video on this before, and it is, how to be a good event moderator. And the whole thing is that have a bit of personality, have a little bit of thing about you, and listen to when the people are on stage that are speaking and actually give you insights, not because you want to sound smart, but because they then feel that at least somebody was listening to them.
Yeah.
So the speakers are happy, the moderators, like the organisers are happy because the speakers are happy and the panellists are happy, and it all ends up being, it also helps that I'm, light hair, light eyes, tan, 6'3", and stand out a little bit in the region here.
But not against us, you wouldn't say that. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah. But that's, I always try to lead with value. How can I over-deliver? And also, I'm always thinking of the experience that those people want, not what I want.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and that's what I try to lead with.
That's a really good, basis for a business: over-deliver, under-promise, over-deliver. It's a classic, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
The thing that I was going to say is that when Darren and I kind of, I think what makes us quite different from a lot of acts or a lot of performers is there's no rigidity in what we do. So we know where we're starting and finishing. The way we navigate that, we kind of, let that play out according to the room. So if something happens in the room or somebody calls out, it doesn't throw us off our script because we're not sticking to a very rigid script.
No.
We know where we're starting and finishing, but we kind of work our way between that start and finish point as we deem fit on the day.
Yeah.
And
No,
that
I've
keeps,
seen that.
And that keeps it loose
Yeah.
and it keeps it fresh and it makes it interesting for us because otherwise we listen to the same thing over and over again and it gets boring.
One thing you said there, which is really interesting, which is the most important people are like the audience or your guests or your clients or whatever. And I was having a chat with, I'm going to drop a name now.
Oh no.
Go on, name drop. Here we go.
So the magician Dynamo. So
Okay.
he's one of my best friends. I've worked with him for the last few years. I'm part of his creative team and all this kind of stuff. And we were discussing like a live show, like a live tour. And I was saying to him that the most important part of the show is the audience and the way they feel when they leave. You have to think about how they're going to feel walking into the theatre or the arena, whatever it is, and what experience you're going to give them when they're there, and then how they're going to feel when they leave, and that takeaway.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the magic and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, look, I understand, put the magic aside. It's about the feeling you give them. And there's a really incredible creative director called Ez Devlin.
Okay.
And she's done some of the most incredible productions. Like, for example, take their tour with the big sculpture.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of stuff. She
Yeah,
did all that.
Wow.
She does like Adele's, and she spoke about, Adele's, like the VT playing on the screens, like the video of her eyes closed. And as soon as her eyes open up, the crowd go mad or whatever. And she said she's in an audience in an arena with like Adele, for example. And she said, I'm doing the one thing that no one else is doing. I'm looking at the audience because that for me is where everything begins. And I was sat there watching it with Dee.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've been saying this for so long. And now you've got literally one of the best in the whole world in her masterclass saying that's where she starts the development. And that's the thing. We've developed skills organically that sometimes we can't necessarily put a title to it, but it's skills that we know how to utilize and we can sort of take them through our experiences and teach people the value in them.
Yeah. But I think the main thing is like authenticity, because you can teach somebody to do something, but is it true to them? Like there's certain things that I would love to do on this podcast because I see other people doing it being successful, but it's not true to me. Yeah. It's not what I want to do.
So you're always going to struggle with that. That's always going to be a struggle.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't overcome it. No. It doesn't mean you can't become better at it. Yeah. But it will probably be uncomfortable for a while till it becomes more ingrained. But eventually you will find your own path. The structure of your podcast now may be quite different to what it looks like in 2 years' time. And it's probably different now to how it looked a year ago. Yeah. Because
an episode ago.
Yeah, well, because everybody is constantly developing.
But I'm also learning on the job as well, and I feel I'm paying to play.
And that's the best way to be. That's the best way, because if you're into your own personal development, it's very easy to get in and just become sort of like robotic. Yeah. And that's what I was saying. The thing that people find authentic about us is it's not robotic. No. And they like the way that we sort of like interplay with the audience. Yeah. And that's just become a natural thing, not a conscious decision as such, but just a natural thing.
Yeah. Would you say you've got a good imagination in general?
That's a good question, actually, because I'm trying to go on a journey at the moment in regard to being more creative, because I never used to believe in reading books like Harry Potter or any To Kill a Mockingbird, whatever. Those books, I thought, what a waste of time to read something like that. But then I read the book Life of Pi. Mm-hmm. And I really understood that these books make you so creative.
What a brilliant book that is.
Yeah. And then I watched the movie and I was so unimpressed. Mm-hmm. But to be creative, just to get back to your point, I feel that I've missed out on being really creative because I didn't go on that journey of being more open like that.
Well, creativity and imagination, I believe, are two different things, first of all. So your imagination gives you the ability to be whatever you want in your mind.
Yeah.
And the limits on that are what you're setting.
True.
So when I say have you got good imagination, like it's very much that's a personal question because it's up to you. You know, some people, they can close their eyes and, you know, imagine themselves in a thing and actually put themselves there. Some people read a book and escape and actually enter that. Do you remember The Never Ending Story?
Yeah.
So someone just reading a book goes on this incredible, like, mystical, magical journey.
Yeah.
And the reason I ask is because I want to try something with you now. Okay.
That's what I was going to say. Let's get to something.
I want you to think of somebody who's important to you in your life.
Okay.
But somebody you're sure that I couldn't know.
Okay.
You got somebody in mind?
I've got somebody in mind, yeah.
Now, can you see my hands?
I can see your hands.
Are they empty?
They're empty, yes.
I'm going to hand you an imaginary pen. Take that, catch. And hand you an imaginary Post-it note, catch.
Got it.
Now, I want you to write the name on that Post-it note for me.
Right.
Did you take the lid off?
Oh, that's true,
Take
actually.
it off,
Sorry.
mate.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'll look
He's
away.
not looking. I hope he's not
Yeah,
looking
look
at me.
away. And then once you finish writing it, put the lid on the pen
Yep.
and throw me the pen. Catch it.
Got it.
In my pocket. And then take that piece of paper and scrunch it into a ball.
Into a ball.
Into a ball, scrunch it into a ball. And what you do, I want you to chuck it in the air just right above me.
Got it? Here we go. What we got here?
For the first time, what was the name you were thinking of?
Felicity. Is that what it says? I'm blind here. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, that's
Let me
yeah.
give that to you.
Let me see. Wow. How did you do that?
Very well, thank you for asking.
Yeah. Well, look, that was brilliant. And we're almost getting towards the end. So there's a couple of things I really want to get in here because I'm fascinated by persuasion and influence that you can have on somebody else. And in regards to selling, when I sell to somebody, I need to get them to feel like they're in control, even though I'm the one that's controlling it. And I feel that there's such an alignment with kind of what you guys do. Like you feel that you're giving somebody control of what they're doing, but you're able to persuade them or influence them in a way. So without revealing, you know, the magic trick or the what goes on behind the curtain, like, is there any insights you can give to that?
I mean, it's really difficult to quantify it, but
Yeah.
here's sort of like a classic scenario. So if I laid 6 objects out on a table and I said to you, you have a free choice of any one of those objects. What I want you to do is to be able to rationalize that you made a free choice. And you can choose any one of those 6 objects and you can change your mind as many times as you like. Yeah. But let me just point out, before you make a decision, there's a piece of paper there that's going to be really crucial in a moment. And they reach down and they grab an object and let's say they pick up a bunch of keys. And I say, and you're happy with that? Yes. And they turn over the piece of paper and it says, you will choose the keys.
Yeah.
What always happens in that situation is people turn around and go, yeah, but what if I'd have changed my mind? And the simple answer to that is, yeah, but you didn't. Yeah, but what would have happened if I did? Well, you didn't, and nobody ever does. And that's sort of like that, like almost like that worm in their head that's constantly eating away, going, that has blown my mind, something so simple.
Yeah.
How did it happen? And then I say, because I influenced you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's no way that you did.
No.
Well, that's how this scenario played out, and I'll just leave you with that.
How it was always meant to be.
Yeah, and
You know.
and it's a very hard thing for people to comprehend how that works. And that's a very simplistic sort of like example of that.
It's a good example though, yeah.
And we do influence people.
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't, I mean, we could spend the next month sitting here talking about how that works.
Yeah.
But it's different for different people.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I find fascinating is that no matter what you've done in your life, or Andrew or myself or anyone in this room, all of our lives have led us to be here right now.
True.
And it always had to be this way. It was never going to be any other way. Let me try something. You've got your phone on you.
My phone's over there.
Your phone's over there.
Yeah.
Can you grab your phone?
Can you get my phone quickly, please? Yeah, thank you.
I want to try something.
I was going to say, let's try and fit a couple more in.
Let's try this.
Yeah, sometimes
So I
the
can have
best
some
way
quick fire.
the best way to answer a question is to give you a demonstration, right?
And have you
Here
got
we
a
go.
pen? Have
No,
you got?
that's not my foot. There's another one.
Have you got a pen as well?
And a pen, please.
Sorry.
You got a pen there? Thank you very much. Just one?
Just one pen would be great.
We've
Yeah.
got an imaginary pen still, so that's
Yeah. I'll put that away.
okay.
That way.
You need it?
No, you
I
hold
need
it.
it.
You hold it for now.
Okay. Is he influencing me? Here you go. Yeah, go on.
So I want to try this. Have you guys got your phones as well?
You got your
Do you have your phone?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
If everyone gets their phones out and opens up the calculator.
Okay.
Got your phone? Open up the calculator. Great. Mark, I want to try this on you, okay? I want you to think of a 3-digit number.
Okay.
Whatever you say, we're all going to put it into our calculator. So 3 digits, any 3 digits.
Okay.
Go on. Say it out loud.
Oh, you want me to say it out loud? Sorry. 786.
So everyone type in 786. So everyone done that? Yeah? I want everyone to hit the multiply.
Yep.
And I don't know your name, I'm sorry. Abdul. Abdul, I want you to say a number out loud. 3 digits. Whatever Abdul says, we're all going to put it into our calculators. 222. So 222. Has everyone done that?
Yep.
Great. Now what we're going to do, everyone's done 222.
Yep.
We're going to hit the plus button.
Yep.
And now I want to generate a number at random, an 8-digit number. Okay. What's your name, sorry? P? Yeah.
Okay.
Would you come here? What? Come here. Come into shot. Okay, so P's going to help me now. But I don't want P to see the number. So hold up one finger like this. Hold up one finger. Hold up one finger like this. And what you're going to do is you're going to tap the screen randomly 8 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. So we're all going to type this in. So P, make sure I'm saying it correctly. So everyone type this in, which is 15 876
876
665. Has everyone done that? Now press equals.
equals.
So it should be 16051 157.
Yeah.
Abdul, show me your screen.
Pass the
Yeah,
test.
can we show the camera? Mark, show your phone to the camera.
Yeah.
Everyone's got that number.
Yeah.
Now, everyone
Thanks,
has
mate.
that same total. And I mentioned how important decisions are
Yeah.
and about influence. And I told you about how important it is that no matter what decisions you make in life, you'll end up at the same point. Mark, you've got a pad in front of you.
Yeah.
Would you do me a favour? Just turn the paper around so it's blank on the clipboard.
Yeah.
Turn the paper around.
Yeah.
And I want you to do it landscape, so not portrait.
Okay.
I want you to write nice and big these numbers. Write them nice and big. So start from the left, which is 16051
16051
157.
Okay.
And I want to show you something pretty incredible. This number was generated at random, but if I go like this, and then like this, and I go like this, you'll see it's the 16th of the 5th, which is today's date. It's 11:57. Look at the time on your phone. It's exactly 11:57.
11:57
on the 16th of May. And it could never have been any other way.
Unbelievable. Wonderful. Wonderful. I'd love to finish in that way because I think that's a great mic drop moment. Okay?
We'll do it in the edit.
Yeah. But
Mic drop.
Yeah, no, I thought wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And that's what we're here for, people. The reason for my show is that I want to interview people that I find interesting, that I can learn from and get insights from that can make me better at what I do. So I really appreciate you guys being on the show, and hopefully people listening have really picked up some good insights that can help them. I'd like to finish with a few questions. One is, and they're quick fire because we've only got a few minutes, but how can I be better as a podcaster?
Stay authentic.
Okay.
Keep going. Persistence outweighs talent.
Okay.
Persistence and hard work.
And I would say of variety. If you're finding that you're speaking to people within the same field or the same genre, you will find a degree of comfort in that. Step out of your zone, and it's okay to have a really difficult. You'll learn more by having a difficult interview than you will with an easy interview.
True. No, definitely right.
So set yourself that challenge.
Okay.
And learn from it.
Brilliant. Thank you. And another question is, what haven't I asked that I should have asked?
That's a really hard question.
I mean, for me...
let me just answer.
No, I'm going to answer.
The truth is, I had no expectations of this.
Okay.
So you asked me everything you should have asked me.
Okay.
And there's nothing you didn't ask me that I wish you had, because, like I said, it had to always be this way.
Okay. Yeah.
For me, I always find it kind of interesting when people ask, who has inspired you? Not that I have a definitive answer for that, because there's lots of people in different fields that have inspired me, but I always find it interesting to understand who people have learnt from.
It's true. Yeah.
So you kind of mentioned about books before. I've always been sort of like an avid reader of books, because they take you on a journey that's you and I could read the same book, but our thoughts after reading that book could be completely different. And we've read the same material, but it's taken us in a different direction. I always find that interesting.
Yeah.
So,
no, you're right.
Different speakers. Sometimes you're inspired by people that nobody knows, because it could be an aunt or an uncle or your father or a friend. And it doesn't have to be, a super wealthy, famous celebrity who's your influence. It could be the guy that runs the shop down the road, because they've got a personal story that resonates. So,
I agree with that. No, thank you for that. Great. Well, as we wrap up now, I see the guy coming over about to wrap up, is how can people reach out to you? Because I know that the plan is, because you've already been over here and doing it, that the plan is to come here more often to Dubai, to spread the influence that you guys can have with different teams and businesses. So how can they reach out to you?
Simple way, they can get us through you.
Okay. All right.
Get to us through you.
All right, perfect. All right, so I'm your manager.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Perfect.
Nice and easy.
Brilliant. All right, but look, thank you both so much for being on the show.
you.
As I said, I've learned a lot, and I really hope the audience did as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thanks for listening and watching, everybody. As I mentioned before, you could have been anywhere else, but you've been here with me along this journey, and I appreciate that. Now, if you like this, please give it a like and a share and a follow. I'm trying to spread this across the community, and that simple press of a button is going to be able to do that. So let's help the community out here by giving it a like, share, and a follow. Thank you, everyone, and I'll see you next week.